Hey, how's it going? I have some cards, and I also took some notes because I've just been having. Well, I took some notes about what I've been in. Whoa, what I've been having. You should come out too. Let me just do this first. So yeah. Here we go. Walking the digital streets in our avatars in cyber. The world just got wider and we all became easier to see. Do we, however, realize the extent to which boundaries we thought ourselves safe behind were so changed? They've become unrecognizable to non-existent because they changed forms and we either haven't recognized it or how to engage with them. Until we do, we don't know the extent of our vulnerability. While in so many ways we are exposing ourselves in ways we are unaccustomed to. We don't even know we're doing it. Pardon me. A few recent topics that have come up that were seemingly unrelated, except I knew they were because they each emanated with significance to myself only. As it goes with these things, it took time for me to understand what they had to do with each other that was meaningful to me. So I got a series of impressions over a period of time, and they each, I know where they sort of derived from, but not specifically what they meant on their own. It was kind of okay, well, that's an interesting thing about that, but what the heck does it have to do with anything else? And then it happened a couple of other times, and I didn't immediately put it together that those separate incidents had anything to do with each other until later. And that's a weird thing about that. You don't never know when some weird thing will come along and you'll note it. You'll be like, that was remarkable. What was that all about? And then you have that strong feeling, and then the time passes and it's okay, I guess that was nothing. And then later on, perhaps you'll have another couple of those kinds of things happen, which is what I'm trying to talk about. And you're like, oh, well, that is a weird incident. That's the way the first thing was. But also unrelated, don't know. And what I ended up was 3 impressions that eventually consolidated, but they all kind of made sense on their own. I think first before they had to make sense on their own first before they could consolidate and make one total sort of message. So, okay, let me get back to this. Okay, where did I leave off? Okay, I have this combined impression of the world of the biological cell. Let me try that again. I have the combined impression of the world of the biological cell, of the two-dimensional, hold on a second, two-dimensional world where four-dimensional dwellers or fourth Jeez, what are you... Oh, hold on. Let me try that one more time. I have this combined impression of the world of the biological cell, of the two-dimensional world where fourth-dimensional dwellers momentarily reducing themselves and their conveyances down by 2. So the fourth-dimensional dwellers manage to reconstitute themselves for a short period of time, themselves and their vehicles, to be able to get into the two-dimensional world. I don't know any kind of math to explain that, so don't look at me, but I feel like it's some kind of super, I don't know, physics. Okay, I interrupted my sentence. Let me jump back in there. Oh, I guess I ended the sentence. An experience of everyone feeling compressed. This is the 4-dimensional people in the 2-dimension. And an experience of everyone feeling compressed while having to proceed through it, which reminded me of trying to describe our bipolar world being compressed, of we feeling compressed, or us, I think it's we, of we feeling compressed, due to the poles closing in on us, we that dwell between them, like getting squished and, no and. To return to the streets, I'm thinking of how we're feeling to return to the streets, I'm thinking of how we're feeling all along the scale. We're seeing sides of people whose true nature has been concealed by an elaborate facade, a world that is held up by the eager belief of many of us who want to live in a fantasy world. No shade, I'm one too, as well. In this new world where the facade is cracked and the darkness has been getting revealed, what used to hide by the law of the streets, where snitching is dangerous, the volume of handheld cameras has finally broken through, changed the paradigm. That first institutional violence. Oh, I need to. Pardon me a second. I needed to punctuate something there. Okay, that first institutional violence caught on camera, the Rodney King beating, had a disappointing result. I mean, I know at the time I was expecting it to have a much bigger impact than it did. Back to the notes. It almost worked in favor of the LAPD. The aftermath, traumatizing whomever lived it or viewed it. The first real historical record of a new age. These days, the profusion of camera angles, handheld and mounted on poles or homes and businesses, it's so much more difficult to manufacture narratives and refute the reality of events. The chief benefit thing of our surveillance state. Another pardon me for one moment. Another association I made with traffic, streets, and trafficking. Any and all manner of trafficking is under scrutiny now by many eyes and lenses, most significantly by civilian observers and witnesses. Good thing, too, because the deep surveillance state want to warp the reporting of events occurring in the open on the streets. In my vision, the streets are sparsely populated, as they currently are, because due to so many people. Wow, that is a terrible sentence, but let me just give it to you anyway. I have to start over. In my vision, the streets are sparsely populated, as they currently are, because due to so many people fearful of deportation. Like I said, it was a terrible sentence. People are hiding in their homes or, other sanctuaries and shelters so that they're out of sight. So many people. Oh, okay. God, that is such a bad sentence. The streets are sparsely populated, as they currently are, because due to so many people fearful of deportation, fearful of meeting masked officers, insisting people match spurious descriptions. We have learned people picked up are cruelly treated, housed like livestock. There's neglect, bad food and water, indifference to medical concerns, depravity when it can't be seen or reported. That's, I guess, where the streets all led me to. I don't know. Let's see what the cards that I pulled have to say about it. I think I had more to say about that stuff. Or maybe it'll come to me anyway. I pulled a Declarations of Mary Magdalene card, and it says, "It is thy that are the keepers of the divine knowledge that becomes hidden when one chooses to flee from thy sacred heart." So when that card, those cards referred as the Sacred Heart, they are referring to your heart in your chest that is your emotional center, that is actually like the wiser sort of. You have a brain, you have an ability, you have an intelligence in your heart, and it can act in concert or separately from the logic of your mind, but they both have an intelligence. One's emotional, one's logical, and then however however they work together. It depends on the situation, I'm sure, because, you won't know what alchemy they're going to be called upon to perform until you know what's happening. You got to have something to, treat. You have to know what you're treating. So, speaking of the streets and people being fearful to go out on them, it's, we're talking about an agency that is supposed to be, this was their mission statement to begin with, when they changed their title from INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service, to ICE, which I don't know what the acronym means. You can tell I cared enough to look. I don't, and I didn't. It's hard to, like, for me, never mind, it's not about me. Oh, that's water that I spilled that I missed. So, they do have people hiding away from them, and what their job, like the mission statement initially was to pick up immigrants that were like criminal, which is weird because they're not like an investigation agency, really. They are like marshals or bounty hunters, and if they were looking for criminals, I can understand sort of the logic of sweeping a place like Home Depot or someplace like that where there's a bunch of sort of Latino guys looking for day work, you know, and their status could be anything. Just because they're there looking for work doesn't automatically mean that their status is illegal, but it might be. I mean, they might be there because their illegal status made it hard for them to get a legitimate job. So, like, I don't really agree with that, but if they were looking seriously for real, I would think, yeah, sure, that's a viable place. But every place else they're looking, like, just sort of roving the streets, that's real hit and miss, and they're not, you know, well, hold on, I don't want to get ahead of myself. And so, like, another place they might look for these criminals is, like, jails. Hi! There's a whole system. I'm sure there's records, you know, I mean, or people, you know, leaving jails. If you want to accost people the way that they've been doing, at least look where you might actually find these criminals you claim to have been looking for in the beginning, but we have since learned that that's not really the thing. That, like, I don't know, that was the mission statement for, like, America to hear, or the United States to hear, but in reality, the mission was a 30,000 person a day quota of people to be picked up that, you know, it's come down to, like, do you have an accent, you know, where were you born, what country were you born in, and you have your papers, and they don't even ask you that until they've, like, beat you down and dragged you off, and because they're not an investigation agency, they're just, like I said, just roving the streets and grabbing people that their own biases are saying, I don't like the looks of that one, let me go pick them up. And it's not even people that, you know, I guess it would be hard to look at people in this country because there's such a melange of different races and cultures. Anyone could be an immigrant from anywhere. Like, they're doing this on the basis of what they think an illegal looks like, and also a criminal illegal, which I didn't realize you could see criminal or illegal from the outside. You can't. It's baloney. It's, if you want to know, like, why that is happening, you can go to the news. It's definitely coming at the behest of the administration, so there's plenty of news about it out there, but it's not valid or legitimate. It's very emotional and not very intelligent and rooted in some real immature pettiness. But that seems to be the order of the day. The birds of a feather like to flock together amongst those people. So anyway, now that I've judged them, my bad, I have two cards from the Starseed Oracle. And the first one is the Void. Oh, there's so much more to see when I look at it with the camera, when I look at it with just my eyes. I mean, I can see the, I guess, black hole. but it's very faint. So here, it's like you're in deep space. This is just what I imagine a black hole to look like, and from what I've seen, it's similar to that. Haven't seen all of them. I don't know every shape they could come in. Let's just go with black hole. And so the card is the void. So let's see what the book has to say about the void card. I mean, just what I have to say about it is it's placed me very far away from everyone and everything. Like you're out there on a spirit quest on your own, pretty much. Okay. Okay, so the subtitles on the card are Stop, Embrace Winter, Great Cosmic Womb. That is borderline rude if you look at it and combine it with Cosmic Womb. But so, okay, if we're going to go with the womb analogy, it's dark in there. You are, in many cases, alone. You're not like a twin or a triplet and so on. And so it is the literal embodiment of you being in your own world for that brief time, that period of gestation. And what's coming to mind right now is like the COVID lockdown, and I feel like we're possibly gonna experience something similar to that in a different form, but I feel like it's gonna be something that gives us time and solitude enough to really get to these deep thoughts that, the first time, the reaction to the lockdown for a lot of people, the being cut off from like socializing and culture was shocking. Like it mentally really shook some people. And so, when it's going to come around again, I think we're going to be more open to it and ready for it, and also, since we've gone through it before, we are better able to equip ourselves to deal with it. And I just had the thought, like, a lot of people didn't come out of the experience very well. Like, they kind of just didn't come out of it. And I know there's people that talk about it that think like, oh my gosh, it's a terrible thing and something's wrong with those people or something like that, but maybe they're just not done processing the experience, or maybe the experience just changed them in a way that doesn't make sense to us. I don't know anyone personally like that, so I can't speak to state of mind, but that's really subjective. Like, the reasons why someone might want to stay withdrawn and become introverted are so many that, like, it's just silly to try and guess without knowing what you're going toward or talking about. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not trained to do anything like that, but I mean, I would think you need a little more information before you start making, judgments on what's happening with people. So, anyway, I will read what the book says. Everything and nothing exists in the void. It's where all life begins and ends. It's the winter and the womb. It's the winter and the womb. The fertile darkness where all things originate and all seeds grow. That was the other analogy I was going to go with, was the seed in gestation. Comforting and intimidating, freeing and daunting. It can feel both overwhelmingly small and huge. The void is where faith lives. Well, you certainly don't have all of the man-made distractions in this space, and if you look at the center of the dark center in the circle, there's a little tiny embryonic bright light. It's very cute. The message of the void is to surrender to the unknown, to allow the fertile darkness of nothingness to nourish the new seeds growing within you, regardless of whether you know what they'll one day become. You're being called to surrender to the mystery of what's next, to rest and allow the winter of your life to do the work for you, to hand over your control and trust that just because you can't see what's happening beneath the surface doesn't mean things aren't at work. The greatest weavings happen when we find a way to surrender and trust that our life is being knitted for us, right beneath the surface, in ways known and unknowable. Now is the time to cultivate faith and allow deep, deep rest. You know, like on a personal level, I feel like the seed waiting to grow is a little bit more accessible than the lost in the space womb. Just because you know, it's like you know that if you plant something, you plant more than one thing. So if something doesn't work out, there's many other like replacements. You grow a crop, you have a whole field. And so you know that even though they're out of sight, you know what you put there. You know you planted the seeds, and so you know eventually the growth is going to come out of the ground and show itself and indicate that the growth took place. And so it's a certainty in a way, you know, not, like I said, maybe not every plant is going to survive perfectly, but you have so many that you'll get something out of it. And it's the same way with the certainty that you have that the sun is going to rise each day. I mean, the way things stand right now, those two things are going to happen. There's been no drastic incidents to derail either of those processes. So, it's, you know, it's like the dying every day where you go to sleep where it gets dark, and, you know, we live in the modern age where we can turn on lights and things, but it wasn't always that way. And, like, maybe we still have, like, vestiges of that primordial fear of the night darkness, but also it's like we got to put our seed brains away for rest as well, you know, like we need to let our brains gestate and process all of the input that we give it. And I don't know, I'm just now, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Oh, right. To hand over your control and trust that because you can't see what's happening beneath the Earth's surface doesn't mean things aren't at work. So, yeah, control. I just realized on the personal level what kind of control freak I am, like where it lies, because I do have I'm self-conscious, and like I try to burrow into whatever I can find that needs to be done, like that needs to be undone, I guess I should say. But it's hard to diagnose yourself, so I did just learn, like I'm all, like I feel like I really accomplished something because I figured out, like, oh, that's where you're controlling. Got it. Now you gotta work on that. Well, I don't know what that has to do with. Oh, so the time that you wait over the winter and like the crop is under the ground, you cannot rush that. You can't control that process. And so when it's ourselves that are also like, we should be like resting our brains too and taking advantage of the lull and all of the stimuli and activity and just the way that, winter slows everything down. Like if there's snow or other weather and it's severe, going out is going to take a long time. You have to be careful. And just traveling in bad weather conditions, you have to go slowly. And so you have to relinquish control. Like, you're just going to have to get there when you get there. And you can't really safely go faster than you're going. Like, it's that kind of thing. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it just is, we get the opportunity to have a small period where it's just night and it's sleep, or it's as close as you can come to it, and rest, to give yourself a chance and your body to sort of recoup and recover from the stresses of the previous day. And if you're stressed out and you're worried and you're overthinking, that you're still trying to control something that's like, it's everything is stopped and slowed down except you. Go to bed, or put the phone down, sit in the dark, like stop trying to control everything. And I feel like that's an important lesson right now, or else I guess I wouldn't be harping on it. Anyway, moving on. The greatest weavings happen, I already read that. The greatest weavings happen when we find a way to surrender and trust that our life is being knitted for us, right beneath the surface, in ways known and unknowable. Now is the time to cultivate faith and allow deep, deep rest. So have faith that it's all going to work out if you just let it go. My God, to go to sleep overnight. Let it go. Loosen your grip. Crazy. The void often surfaces at the end of a chapter or life phase. Well, I think we're all like, we left the end of the chapter. We're like well into the next one. And it's dark. It goes to some deep, dark places to milk another metaphor out of this picture. When we're called to let go of it all, that we know, okay, the void often surfaces at the end of a chapter or life phase. When we're called to let go of all that we know and identify with. Boy, I mean, everything we thought we knew that we totally identified with, like we just latched onto those fake facades and ideas, only to find out, like almost nothing is real, and it's just beginning. Like, the thing that's kind of like set everybody and everything off is the release of these Epstein files, and the information that's coming out is, it really is kind of life and or mind, or both, mind changing, because your whole life you think things are one way, and that's tradition. Like everybody that goes back and back and back that's still alive that you can ask is like, this is how it's always been. Some things have gotten modern, but the things, oh my gosh, we've seen institutions like falling apart and falling down in the United States, and things that people wrap like their whole lives and identities around, like civil rights people and all that work that was done for that, and it just got like taken away, and they're dismantling what we know this country to be, piece by piece, law by law, they being the current administration. But it hasn't just been them. It's been, taking place over time. Like I said, piece by piece, brick by brick, it's been like kind of just being undone. Yeah, let me go back to what this thing says. When we're called to let go of all that we know and identify with. When you're in the void, it can feel scary and as if you should be doing something. However, when this card appears, it's a sure sign that the most productive thing to do is relinquish control and surrender to the changing mystery of your life. So that feeling of doing something, when these files came out, like people were calling for them and calling for them and calling for them, and I don't think they really had a very deep thought about what they were going to find, and I knew it was going to be terrible, and I have not been disappointed. Still haven't seen or heard anything that's worse than the worst thing I could imagine, so that's good. But I was talking to my friend earlier about how shocking it is, that discovery that, like, that's not real. That person lied about everything, or they misled us all to think these things or people were something completely other than what they actually are. But what has been happening over time, along with the other thing that I was saying takes time, is there are cracks where it's starting to become visible, or it's been things happening the same way enough times to the same person or people where you're like, there is a pattern there. Like you start to see things deviate from the norm. Let me refresh my memory. Oh, so yeah, like things are becoming not the way they were when I was younger, or the way my grandparents or the people that came before them were used to. Like lots of things that sort of were the identity of this country are coming down or weakened. It's a shocking feeling, especially the things that are coming out to make it all like, oh my god, none of it was real. It's like so horrible. And so my friend and I were talking about it, and we were talking about people that were not like ready for this. That some people, the way their life has been, you have like more of a capacity to intake the horrible crap than others, and it's good for the people that don't have the kind of background that prepares you for that. And so it's good for them to see people that are not freaking out and falling apart about these things. So it can be seen by people visibly, like you can still be stable while everything is completely unstable feeling. But also, now that the information is out and the whole landscape is changed and you have to look at everybody and everything differently. Oh, I got water right on my phone. And so we were like, what do you do? Like, there's like a gap. There's been so many things that have begun and ended lately, and there keeps being these null periods, these void areas where the continuity wasn't exactly continuous. And it's a good thing, because you do need that time. It's like another version of, being under the soil, or just staying in the dark, where you have a moment to breathe, catch your breath, not long, and sort of make sense of what happened before. And it's just over and over it's happening. So it's something that it's the new paradigm that we have to become accustomed to. Okay, so however, when this card appears, it's a sure sign that the most productive thing to do is relinquish control and surrender to the changing mystery of your life. Starseed Soul Inquiry. How are you being called to surrender to the unknown mystery of your life? I just am always searching for it because there's always more than just one thing that's going on. Like, if you have one idea, that's going to have a million, billion tendrils attached to it going to something else. Several somethings else. Anyway, so the next card is Your Life is a Canvas. Okay, so, I mean, if you're going to take that literally, your life is a canvas, it's almost like this person, this figure is standing here on this promontory, and everything, I mean, the title of the card indicates that everything that they're looking out upon is something that they can control, that they can, like, where they can direct their destiny. So maybe they can't literally change the sky or the mountain or whatever, but maybe their traverse through it, you know, is the paintbrush. And so every stroke and embellishment is along the way of your travels, you know, every step along the way is gonna evoke a stroke of, like, a paintbrush or a palette knife, for shading, color, tone. So, like, you might not be able to change the mountain, but as you know, make your way to the mountain and up and over it, the way you approach the journey and everything you encounter along the way, like a hurdle or a gift, the way you respond as you make your way is you sort of painting your future, like creating the world that you want to be in, and the way that you would like, the way you want to people your world. Like, that is a way of creating your destiny, like literally, like you literally have a hand in it. So let me see what the book says about Your Life is a Canvas. The last one. 134 card. Well, I haven't been doing any numbers on these. Oh, it's not the 134 card. Sorry, that's the page number. Okay, here we go. Your Life is a Canvas. And the subtitles are Artist, Manifestation, Creative Accountability. You're the artist of your life, and your life is a canvas. Take responsibility for your ability to create. Earth is known as a planet of manifestation. Your present moment is based on your past thoughts and beliefs. Your current thoughts determine your future. What kind of life do you want to create for the future? What are you being called to create? What are you being called to create? Reconnect with your manifesting power and align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with the vibration that matches them. It's never too late to start, and no experience is required. All you need is an open heart, an open mind, and consistent daily action. If you're not sure what you'd like to create, start instead with a feeling of deep gratitude for all that's good in your life right now. State out loud what you're most thankful for. Look for the good in your life, and one more thing can be certain. You'll find yourself attracting more and more good experiences into your world. I like good. I would like more good. Good likes good that likes good. This card is inviting you to see your entire life as a canvas, as the picture is completely up to you. Color it with your thoughts and feelings. Create the life that you most long to live. You may also be called to be more creative in your everyday life. What have you been called to create? How can you express yourself more creatively? Starseed Soul Inquiry. What are you being called to create in your life? A better life. Life is not, for me, too terribly bad. I mean, I really can't complain. I know that is not the case for a lot of other people, and I would sure like it if everyone that doesn't have it, like people in like Russia and Ukraine, for instance, that don't have indoors to live with power and all of the amenities like water, clean water, hot water, walls, roof, all that good stuff. They had it, but they had to go through all of this. And so I am grateful that I am where I am, and I'm, fortunate enough to see their experience from afar, and put all kinds of energy into their welfare. All of the people, Palestine too, the Israelis too, because it's not like they're not getting harmed as well. It doesn't matter about who started it or whatever. That's not for me to even deal with. But anyway, that was your reading. Thank you and good night. Where is it?